Hey, before I start the show, I just wanted to let you know about something awesome. At the end of this episode, you will get to be among the first to hear the newest Hi Dad Soup song. It's our pop punk cover of Stand Out from a Goofy movie, and it rocks. So stay tuned for that and some information about the future of Mickey in Minutes. All right, now on to the episode. Hey, and welcome to the Mickey in Minutes Podcast. Quick conversations, information, and inspiration. I'm your host, Nick Lazaga, and I hope you enjoy this episode of The Short Disney Show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Mickey in Minutes Podcast. I'm so glad everyone is here listening today, and guess what? I have a very, very special guest with me today. This dude is one of my oldest friends. You've heard him on the show before. Welcome, Jake D.
Hey, Nick. Thank you for having me again, man. It's a real pleasure.
Dude, yes, this is awesome. So listeners, if you don't remember, back in season 6, episode 10, we did an episode called our Disney Summer Covers Playlist. And that's the first time we've had Jake on this show. And on that episode, we talked about our favorite Disney cover songs, which was actually a part 2 of an episode. Season 6, episode 1 was the first of that little series. And we had to have Jake on that second episode to talk about Disney covers because Jake is a music man.
You know, that was so much fun, and I think it came out in September, but
came out June 27th, 2024.
Oh no, the A Whole New Sound, the Disney pop punk cover album came out.
Oh, we are getting there.
Post our episode last summer, and I just remember thinking like, oh man, like we could have done a whole episode just on that. You probably know as a listener, but Nick is an amazing drummer.
Thank you.
And we actually met playing in pop punk bands together. So that album is just kind of like a match made in heaven for us. So, it sounds like we might talk about it later.
We're going to chat about that record a little bit more. You're in my head, Jake D. So Jake, you have a podcast of your own called the Sippin Mimos Podcast.
Yeah. So me and my good friend Elliot, we have a show called Sippin Mimos where we talk about 90s rock and electronica records. We are getting ready to start recording a new season, but we have a pretty extensive back catalog. We cover albums from bands like Korn, Daft Punk. See this conversation in about 10 minutes.
Yes.
You know, we cover Blink-182, Chemical Brothers, all the great 90s rock and radio pop and electronica albums. We can be found wherever podcasts are found. So check us out. If you want to hear a conversation about Prodigy and Sugar Ray, look no further than Sippin Mimos.
Yeah, dude, your show is fantastic, man. I had the pleasure actually before the relaunch of Mickey in Minutes. I was a guest on your show.
Yeah, that I loved it.
Yeah, man, it was great. We talked about 90s Disney songs on that episode, and it was like after I did that episode with you, I was just really diving into the idea, man, I got to relaunch Mickey in Minutes. And so, yeah, so that's a little bit awesome, of our history together, man. And, you know, like we said, you were on the show last season. You're on the show now. So I'm thinking, man, this might have to be an annual guest appearance, man.
I will put it in the calendar for 2026. It would be an honor.
Yes, dude. Yes, dude. And so our topic today, of course, revolves around music. Because like I said, Jake D is the music man. So today our topic, as you can probably tell just by the title of this episode, we're talking about vinyl record collecting. Now, Jake is a huge vinyl collector, right?
Yeah, I've been collecting vinyl about 18 years. Started 2007 at Hog Wild Records in San Antonio, and it's just been a part of my life ever since. Yeah, that's fantastic. I remember just early days of our friendship going to concerts, and you would always walk out of there with a vinyl under your arm, man. And I remember one year it was one of the Warped Tours, and you couldn't make it for some reason, and you texted me saying, dude, can you get me a copy of the first Matchbook Romance, because they were there. And so that's the last thing I did before I left, and I was just paranoid. I was like, I better not crush this vinyl for Jake. You remember that? The red vinyl.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude.
That's just a throwback. What a great record.
Oh, man. I just messaged you about that record.
We were just talking about that, yeah, a couple days ago. That's so good. So vinyl collecting, you know, there's so many genres of music, obviously. There's millions, dare I say millions of vinyl records being, you know, have been pressed
I would
thus
say.
far. And part of that niche, and the one that we fall into together, is Disney. And Disney, over the years, has had, their own record labels, and they've pressed different kinds of records, different types of music, whether it's parks or records from films. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about our favorite Disney vinyl records in our collection. I don't have as many records as you, Jake, but I do have a lot. I do have a lot. And so it was really hard to narrow it down to my top five. And I have some really interesting records on this list that I've just been really excited to talk to you about, since I know that you know so much about vinyl.
Well, I'm looking for it, and we haven't shared our list. So
Yeah, we did
I'm
not.
going into this blind. So I'm super duper excited.
So we're gonna go down our list. We're just gonna share no particular order necessarily. I mean, we might start with like our favorite at the moment, and vinyl collecting. Your favorite's gonna change depending on your mood and the day of the week.
Yeah.
So like we're gonna kind of arbitrarily pick our favorite and show that one, and then go down the line of our four other ones that just are either sentimental to us or just really awesome in some way. And Jake, you are my guest today, so I would like you to go first. What's your top Disney vinyl in your collection right now?
I can be your guest. Be your guest.
Yes. Why didn't I say that? That's funny.
Okay, so my wife and I recently welcomed our first daughter last year. And,
Congratulations, dude.
Thank you. She's the best. And so when we found out we were pregnant, we were like, let's go shop for records,
As one does. You find out you're pregnant, you go record shopping. Why not?
It was the most surreal day. It was a beautiful day in February, and we drove out to a record. There was a record market out at a Hill Country bar, and we roll up, and I was scrolling through, and I found a copy of 1980s Disney's Partners.
Partners with a D. I see like cowboys and stuff on the cover. Mickey in a cowboy outfit, Donald, Goofy. So tell me about this.
So this is an album, like I said, it came out in 1980 on Disneyland Records. And I love country music. I love all kinds of music, but particularly fond of country music. And I was not aware of this album, but when I saw Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, in cowboy hats, and on the front it says 14 great cowboy songs, I was like, oh, this needs to be this baby's first album.
So are they like children's songs, or are they like actual like Willie Nelson and stuff like that, or like what is it?
So traditional country songs sung by Larry Gross, who he's famous for doing the Disney children's favorites. I think there was he did 9 Disney children's albums altogether. Interesting. He's from Dallas, and he wrote like a novelty song called like Junk Food Junkie. And
okay, nice.
And his friend, he had a friend who worked for Disneyland Records, and they were trying to write a song about Winnie the Pooh. This was 1976, I believe.
Nice.
And nothing was really catching on. So his friend from Disneyland Records said, "Hey, I have a songwriter buddy. Can you give it a shot?" And he wrote "Winnie the Pooh for President," which was nominated for a Grammy and led him to sing on I think it was 9 Disney's children albums. So he did Christmas songs, he did Disney's children's favorites, and this country western album called Partners.
So I will say, side note, you said Winnie the Pooh for president. Dude, I did an episode of Mickey in Minutes a while back about Winnie the Pooh running for president, and how that was a campaign in the parks during a presidential election season. And yeah, that's a great story, like great, cool connection between music and the parks.
Yeah, he's got such a sweet, smooth voice, perfect for kids music. And talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Partners, it's classic country western songs. So they got Deep in the Heart of Texas, Don't Fence Me In, Happy Trails, Home on the help on the Rain. So classic songs, but there's also songs with Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, kind of like in them singing along with Larry Gross. So Cowboy Mickey is a total standout. It's really sweet. We actually played it for our daughter, and she just loved it. Just had such a good time with it.
That's
So
so
yeah,
cute. I
so
love
this
that,
one,
man.
yeah, this one, it's her first record, and it's a special one. So yeah, Walt Disney Productions Partners. Check it out. Total recommend.
That's fantastic, dude. I love that sentimental aspect of that record. That's so good, dude. So I'm going in a bit of a different direction. You kind of alluded to this record at the beginning of the episode, and you didn't even realize this would be on my list, I guess. I'm going with Disney, A Whole New
Ooh.
Sound. This is tasty. Do you have this one, dude?
We do, yes.
Yes.
It's
So
it's a modern classic. You know, it kind of reminds me of like disco Mickey.
yeah, exactly. It's that same kind of thing where they took a genre and they decided to do it Disney. Now, what's really crazy about this, and the reason it's at the top of my list, is because I feel like I dreamed this into existence. Like for real. Because all my life growing up, there's been like the Disney Mania CDs, you know?
Oh yeah,
And there was always Disney covers from Disney Channel artists at the time, you know, whether it was Hannah Montana or Jonas Brothers or what have you. Growing up as a pop punk kid, I always thought, man, they should do a record where it's pop punk artists, the artists that I like, that I feel like are my back pocket artists, doing these Disney covers, you know? And so, like I said, I feel like I wished this into existence. Now, this record has my all time, well, one of my all time favorite bands, that is Newfound Glory, doing the opening track, Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid. And it rips, dude.
I think if you're gonna do a pop punk album, you know, a Disney pop punk album, whoever produced this record knows their stuff. You know, Newfound Glory, arguably the greatest pure pop punk band of all time.
They're still going, man.
You know, also from Florida. You know,
Yep. Yeah, from
and
Coral Springs. They're just
uh,
yeah, you couldn't do this record without Newfound Glory. I
yeah,
feel like, you know. And like some of the artists featured on here, like if you're a pop punk kid like I am, you're gonna recognize most of these names. You know, you have Mayday Parade, you have Simple Plan, which I have a connection with Simple Plan not only from growing up listening to Simple Plan, but from actually recently seeing them at Epcot. I saw them play at Flower and Garden Festival at Epcot, and it was just one of those things. It was actually before this was even announced, and it just solidified this really interesting relationship between Simple Plan and Disney that I guess ended up leading to something like this, to them doing it. They do "Can You Feel the Love Tonight."
I love that one. Another standout one, which is another Florida band, Yellow Card, is on there doing Whole
They
New World.
are, yeah, after a lengthy hiatus from Yellow Card, right?
Man, Yellow Card blew up. They're back on top. That's crazy.
That's so good. I heard that Travis Barker is producing their new record
Yeah,
and playing drums on it, right?
yeah, playing drums. I mean, it's awesome. I love Yellow Card, so it's great to see them back.
That's so good. So, side note, we've mentioned Blink-182 like 3 times on this episode, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we're recording this on the 24th anniversary of Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, one of my favorite records of all time.
My all-time favorite record. That's
Dude,
insane.
yes, 24 years. You believe that? What a thing to make you feel old.
I don't know. That album taught me how to play guitar. I just learned everything that Tom DeLonge did on that album, and I still use it to this day. So, man,
Yeah, I
happy
feel
anniversary.
like, dude, happy anniversary. What a great day to be recording a podcast episode about music. If only Blink was on this record, it would have been perfect.
I know.
We have other things, like you have like Boys Like Girls on this record, doing Phil Collins, "You'll Be in My Heart,"
You'll Be on My Heart. That's right.
and it's so good. Like the way that they do like the '80s drums in their version, just tribute to just Phil, like as a songwriter.
I think the runaway track on that album is Magnolia Park's "Eye to Eye."
Eye to Eye, yeah, that song has been covered so many times, and I think Magnolia Park was able to do it in a way that stood out, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, it rips. The whole record is just fantastic. We have Plain White Tees doing Surface Pressure from Encanto.
Oh yeah. They did another one. Was it it was a song from Dumbo, or was it just like, or was
Yeah,
it
they did When I See an Elephant Fly, which we actually
that's it.
mentioned on
Yes.
the last episode you were featured on our
Yeah.
favorite Disney covers. So yeah, I figured that I would start with this one. Number one, because it's something that I just rip, almost daily at least. And another reason because it kind of ties into that last time you were on this show talking about Disney covers. And I just feel like this was a great way for me to introduce this topic. And I just want to talk about this record with you, honestly.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just wrapped around me wanting to chat with you about vinyl. So,
Awesome. Yeah, I hope they do a volume two and keep that going because I think there's so much potential there.
all right. Do you have any like a dream band with a song for volume two of this? Like, what pop punk band do you think they missed that should be on there?
Oh man.
Putting you on the
Uh,
spot, bro.
I would like to see they're kind of pop punk adjacent. I did remember doing Make a Man Out of You from
Dude,
Levon.
imagine how tough that would be. That
You
would
know,
be
like
fantastic.
I think that would be killer. I can just hear the breakdowns now. And they're another Florida, pop punk band from Ocala, I think.
Yeah, I feel like they really missed an opportunity by not having anything heavier on that record.
Yeah.
I mean, pop punk has so many pockets,
Mhm.
that heavy pop punk with some breakdowns would have been much appreciated, maybe for volume two. But dude, let's keep this list going. What's another Disney vinyl that's on your
So
list?
my favorite Disney animated feature of all time is The Rescuers. I adore The Rescuers. And back in 2011, we were visiting San Francisco. And we were on Haight Street, and we stopped into Rasputin Records on Haight Street, and it was it was a wild record store. And I was flipping through, and I look up on the wall, and they have a copy of The Rescuers. It's a technically it's
Like the
it,
story,
yeah,
the
one of them.
story with the music in it.
Yes, story and songs from the original motion picture soundtrack.
Yes.
And I love The Rescuers. I used to watch it over and over as a kid, and I think the music, and particularly the journey, which is sung by Shelby Flint, it opens the movie. It's just one of my favorite things ever. It's haunting. It's the images. There's one image that I'm in my mid 30s now, and I can close my eyes and still see the image of the bottle on a wave and the lightning crackling, and it's who will rescue me. I just
Gorgeous.
think
Classic Disney animation.
it's gorgeous. And that's on this record, and that song's not streaming anywhere that I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
probably
some
on
like weird things with Disney songs that are not on Apple Music or Spotify sometimes.
yeah, on YouTube, I imagine. Rescuers Down Under, which is another favorite of mine, is
Classic.
has some songs on like Apple Music and Spotify. But I think this might have been my first Disney album that I picked up. And I love it. It's that Disneyland Records label from like the 70s, which is just so like retro and classic. It's actually, they have a t-shirt on the Music Disney Emporium.
Dude, I've been eyeballing that t-shirt
Man.
forever.
I want it, and I want the Buena Vista Records one as well.
Yes.
They're just sick. But yeah, so the Rescuers soundtrack from 1977's my fave.
That's so beautiful, man. I have a few of those like stories and songs from Disney that I've picked up from like different places over the years, used copies, of course. I have like the Peter Pan one, I have the Pinocchio one, the Dumbo one. They did a lot of those back in the day, and it
Yeah.
reminds me like when we were growing up. Like I remember having like it was just like this, but instead of a vinyl, it was a cassette tape.
Yeah.
And it would tell you when to turn the page.
Yeah.
I remember
Tell
I
you
had
Ruxpin and stuff,
Dude, yeah, the one that I had that I just played to death was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And
Cool.
it was just such a cool thing. It was clearly not Harrison Ford doing the indie voices, but and even as a kid, I knew that, but I didn't care because it was like when you hear the sound of the whip cracking, turn the page.
Oh, that's cool.
It was just so, so amazing.
All right. So what's your next one, bro?
So my next one is actually a really interesting one. Do you remember the 2015 film Tomorrowland with
Oh,
George
yeah.
Clooney? It was
Yeah.
like Brad Bird, right? That was such a
Did,
fantastic movie.
did Brad Bird direct that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. Such a fantastic movie. And so when they were marketing this movie, they did kind of a bit of a viral marketing campaign called The Optimist. Do you remember this?
I remember you telling me about it. I'm not very familiar.
All right, so let me tell you a little bit about this because this is kind of the lead into what this vinyl is. It's pretty crazy. So back in 2013, Disney launched this alternate reality game as a promotion for the movie Tomorrowland. But when they first launched this, they didn't say what it was. They just kind of called it The Optimist, and people started discovering clues around Los Angeles being led by this fictional character who apparently discovered some stuff from her recently deceased grandfather that was leading her to find some connections to Walt Disney and a secret society called Plus Ultra. Now, if you've seen the Tomorrowland film, it all kind of makes sense with that. But Disney was doing this crazy thing where people were participating in this game and going around to some of Walt's haunts around Los Angeles, like the Tam O'Shanter restaurant that he frequented and Griffith Park and stuff like that, even Disneyland. And so the whole thing culminated at the D23 Expo in 2013. There was this whole thing where they revealed that it was a promotion for Tomorrowland. And during this, I was participating in this from a distance. Obviously, I live in Texas, and all the actual gameplay was going on in Los Angeles. But they were throwing a bone to us Disney fans who didn't live there by letting us participate online. And then at one point during the game, this character said that she moved a cabinet at her grandfather's apartment or something, and she found this stack of records with the song from the 1964 World's Fair, Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow by the Sherman Brothers. And she was like, I found a bunch of these records, they're just really cool records. I want to send that out to some of my friends that I've made during this journey. And so, of course I signed up for it. I was like, well, that's cool. So I got it and I listened to it. And let me describe this to you really quick because it looks so beautiful. We were talking about Disneyland records before. And so it didn't come in a sleeve or anything. It was just a record in the white slip, because she supposedly found them. And it looks like it has the Disneyland Records label on it. It was like blue and it says Disneyland Records, Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow on side A. And then side B was Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow instrumental. That was it. So I got the record. When I put it on my record player, side A played normally and it was great. Side B played normally. But then when I went to play side B again, I put the needle down and something completely different started playing, Jake. So it was like a voiceover of somebody talking, and it ended up being a clue to the game. And so the way they did this was multiple grooves. So there was one set of grooves on side B with the song, and then another adjacent set of grooves that if you put the needle down just right, it follows this other groove that has a narration. So it was like a hidden track within side B. Have you ever heard of that on a record before?
No.
Dude, it's nuts. This had to make my list because not only am I a huge fan of Tomorrowland, but I played this game and I received this record thinking I was just receiving a cool, like, old Disneyland record. But, it was something specially created for this game. And
Wow.
it's such a cool thing. And of course, side A plays normally. It's just a great song also from the Sherman Brothers.
That is so cool. I had no idea. Is it so it's just like a standard black album?
Just a standard black record. It looks like it's really old, like it's as if it was released for the 64 World's Fair. Of course, it was actually pressed in 2013. And it's, Walt Disney Records since they were doing the whole thing. But it looks like a classic Disneyland Records album.
That is insane.
Dude, yeah. So this whole viral marketing campaign was insane. Unfortunately, the movie kind of was panned by critics and, casual viewers. But I feel like us Disney fans really appreciated the movie, especially those of us who went through this whole game, this whole alternate reality game.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you haven't watched Tomorrowland in a long time, go ahead and watch it. But also go online and look up the Optimist alternate reality game for Tomorrowland and just read about it because it was so cool.
Man, I'm I'm gonna have to check that out. I had no idea there was this this massive viral campaign associated with that. Man, I want to see that record. I want to listen to it.
Dude, next time you're in town, man, I'll have to spin it for you. I'm sure you can go on
Yeah.
YouTube and look up a video of someone playing it. It's very cool. The dual groove thing, I've never heard of that before, so it's
Yeah.
genius.
I've heard of things like if you play a record backwards, you can hear
Right.
everything, like recipes for like soup or something.
That's what it is.
But well, that's a perfect segue into my next one. So kind of like building on Tomorrowland, Tron Legacy came out in 2010, and I didn't see it in theaters. I didn't see the original Tron. I couldn't call myself a Tron guy. I knew it through like kind of like cultural osmosis,
Right.
The funky, 1970s CGI, Jeff Bridges. I just kind of like discovered Jeff Bridges in movies like, The Big Lebowski and
Right.
like True Grit came out around that time. And I was just really
Iron Man.
infatuated. Iron Man. Yeah. 2008. And Tron Legacy came out. I didn't see it in theaters, but from what I remember, it was successful.
Yeah, I think it was okay.
Right. It did all right.
Enough for them to make an attraction in Shanghai and then bring it over to Florida.
Yeah, that's right. It was one of the first Blu-rays I got though. And I remember being absolutely blown away with how this movie looked, especially like the part where Garrett Hedlund's character, who plays Jeff Bridges' son, jumps in. He's on the grid and he's playing the game and he jumps in his light cycle.
Dude, yes.
It looked incredible.
The visuals in that movie are spectacular.
Amazing. And not only does it look good, it sounded amazing. And big part of that has to do with the soundtrack done by Daft Punk.
Dude, classic, yeah.
French.
I'm sure you've talked about Daft Punk on your other show, right?
They were our first episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're French, you said?
A French electronica duo, Daft Punk, famous for wearing robotic masks and never showing their faces. They did the score for this movie, and it is stunning. No other word to describe it. It's just it's intense. It's dark. It's huge. Do you remember in the old Apple stores how these when like Beats by Dre were just like coming out?
Yeah.
And you could like try them out in the Apple store and they had like 8 songs to choose from.
Right.
Well, one of the songs was Derezzed from the Tron Legacy soundtrack. And I used to go to the Apple store whenever I was at the mall. And I used to just go and just listen to Derezzed and be like, God, that sounds so good. Like, oh my God, this is the coolest sounding thing ever. And to this day, like if I'm testing out like a speaker, that's usually the first song that I try it on. Derezzed.
That's
it was
so fantastic.
It was such a vibe, that movie. It's one of my faves. It still looks great, and this soundtrack is nuts. This particular vinyl, it was one of the first times that I had a record where I remember thinking, oh, I hope they press that to vinyl. Oh, and they had already, but of course it sold out and it was like $400 on the secondhand market. And I was like, I'm not doing that. But it was one of the first times when I was like, I hope they repress Tron Legacy. Please repress it. And they did it. And I pre-ordered it and everything. And
so yeah, the look of the movie is incredible. Is there like a gatefold or anything with like artwork?
Yeah. So it's a pretty standard. So I have 2 versions of it. I have
That's why you're on the show, dude, because you're the vinyl guy.
In 2015, they did it on Walt Disney Records. It's just a black cover. The gatefold are the Daft Punk guys who are actually, it's a scene from the movie where they're at a party and it's I think Michael Sheen is the actor and they're at his party and Daft Punk is actually DJing at his party.
Dude, I remember that scene. I didn't realize that was Daft Punk.
Yeah. And so the gatefold is just them.
Is that like that
party.
scene? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's sick.
It's pretty cool. And then Mondo did a color version a couple years ago, and they're also in the artwork, and it's a little bit more upgraded. But
leave it to Mondo to do a dope release of this, man. They do the coolest like vinyl re-releases. Is there a variant of the on the record? Is it standard black for both?
So the 2015 standard black. The Mondo variant I have is blue translucent and clear pinwheel with white splatter.
Man, that's fantastic.
Which is just pretty gorgeous. But yeah, if you're not into like sci-fi, action, adventure, totally understand. Definitely still check out the Tron Legacy soundtrack. It's just wild.
That's fantastic. So, yeah, Disney movie soundtracks are some of the ones that we just love to get on vinyl because those songs stick with us, even if they're the Tron instrumental, just crazy music, you know? And the actual vinyl itself, the variants of vinyls, makes a big difference for vinyl collectors, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a great segue into my next one, which is another Disney film with an amazing soundtrack. But the real kicker about what I'm going to talk about is the variant copy that I have on the actual disc. So, hey everyone. Now that obviously was not the end of the conversation with Jake. There are still 5 more Disney vinyl to discuss. But to keep this the short Disney show, I decided to make this conversation a 2-parter. You'll be able to hear the rest on the next episode. But now, as promised, here is the premiere of the newest Hi Dad Soup song, a pop punk cover of Stand Out from a Goofy movie. Enjoy!
Open up your eyes, take a look at me. Get the picture fixed in your memory. I'm driven by the rhythm like the beat of a heart, and I won't stop until I start to stand out. To stand out. Some people settle for the typical thing, living all their lives waiting in the wings. It ain't a question of if, just a matter of time before I move to the front of the line. And once you're watching every move that I make, you gotta believe that I got what it takes to stand out above the crowd, even if I gotta shout out loud. So mine is the only face you'll see, gonna stand out till you notice me.
If I can make you stop and take a look at me instead of just there's nothing that I wouldn't do if it was getting you to notice.
All I need is half a chance, a second thought, a second glance to prove I got whatever it takes.
It's a piece of cake.
Stand out above the crowd, even if I gotta shout out loud. So mine is the only face you'll see, gonna stand out
Till you notice.
stand out above the crowd, even if I gotta shout out loud. So mine is the only face you'll see, gonna stand out
Till you notice me. Wasn't that awesome? My former co-host and bandmate Andy Goots and I had a blast recording that song, which leads me to the next thing I want to mention. Due to some personal reasons, Andy has decided to leave Mickey in Minutes. I had a lot of fun with him as a co-host on the show and playing music with him, and I wish him the best in whatever new projects he takes on in the future. But don't worry, the show will go on just like it used to, and I plan to bring on more guests in the future, like Jake D, and of course, my wife Chelsea. So I hope you stick with me for lots more Disney fun. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed our version of Stand Out and part 1 of my conversation with Jake D about Disney vinyl collections. Do you collect vinyl? If you do, what's your favorite? Let me know. Leave a comment or send a message on Instagram at Mickey in Minutes. Oh, and speaking of Instagram, I want to chat with you. Join me live on Instagram every Monday for Mim Mondays at 8 p.m. Central Time. That's my weekly show where I chat with you guys about the latest Disney news and do my part to help make Mondays magical. I hope to see you in the chat. Well, that's it for now. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks again for listening to the Mickey in Minutes podcast. If you liked it, tell your fellow Disney friends about it. Follow on Instagram at Mickey in Minutes, subscribe wherever you listen, and check out mickeyinminutes.weebly.com for more content.